So the Rea Vaya bus service in Johannesburg is currently suspended, and that's until further notice due to reasons that aren't clear as yet. This follows concerns from transport stakeholders about the feeder routes in Soweto. Just last week, 45-seater feeder buses were returned. Passengers are being advised now to use alternative transport until these services are back in operation. Watching developments for us is SABC News reporter Ofentse Setimo, who joins us now live. And Ofentse, I wonder if we've been able to get to the bottom of why Rea Vaya has taken this decision. Help us locate where you are and what we know so far.
Well, thank you very much, Ayanda, and a good morning to your viewers. We're actually coming to you from Dobsonville. We are outside the Rea Vaya Bus Depot, where we saw a couple of buses actually coming in. As you rightfully mentioned, that the operations have actually been cancelled. And from what we heard, initially the issue was the buses that are operating locally, which were the ones that the local taxi operators had an issue with. And they felt that, this one will actually be a competition for them, as, Rea Vaya is quite reasonable when you compare with taxis. We just spoke to one commuter this morning who was actually mentioning that he's since loaded his tag with 600 bucks, but he had to go now and ask for money from the neighbors in order to commute to work. And he was telling us that from Soweto to go to Bara, it's about 15 bucks, and he has to catch another taxi, another 2 taxis in order for him to get to the location where he's going. He was comparing that with the Rea Vaya bus, saying that, it actually cost him 15 bucks from here in Soweto all the way to where he actually works. So he was actually saying that more should be done by government to try and protect the interests of commuters whose livelihood is actually threatened by these kind of acts by the different stakeholders within the transportation industry. And earlier on, we were actually at another location where there's actually taxi drivers who are actually blockaded there, who were actually chasing us away, saying that they don't want us there, they did not invite us, and we must actually leave. So there you can tell that the situation is quite tense, because there's so many taxi associations that have parked there and trying to monitor the situation to ensure that there are no buses that are actually operating there. Business as well, there are those vendors that are operating just outside the stations who would be selling sweets or cookies or the likes. They were actually telling us that the bottom line is badly affected, as there weren't a lot of people or as much traffic as they are used to catering, and in fact they could not sell as many items as they normally do. So this is the situation. We understand that the MMC for transport will actually be meeting up with different stakeholders today at 11. We're still trying to establish where this gathering will actually be happening, so that upon the end of their gathering we can try and find out if maybe they managed to meet each other halfway. But the sentiment, especially for residents of Soweto, is that this has actually been happening for quite some time, and they are saying that government just needs to step up just to ensure that their interests are also protected. Ayanda?
And many commuters, of course, Ofentse, were taken by surprise when this happened. It almost felt like Rea Vaya made this decision as a last-minute call.
Yes, absolutely. Those that we spoke to were actually caught off guard, and in fact we actually struggled to get those that can comment on camera how they feel, how are they affected and everything. It was really difficult, as most of them were actually rushing and panicking that they might not make it to work on time. Others actually made alternative arrangements in terms of those that can actually come and pick them up and then also drop them off at work. And fortunately, unlike in other provinces, that problem of taxi associations actually targeting people that give people lifts is not as rife here where we are as in other provinces, as you've realized that it was actually making news headlines where even Santaco was saying they're the ones that actually have the permit to ferry people around. And in fact, when you are driving around and someone asks for a lift, you don't have the permit to do that, then you should not do that. So the challenge here is mostly towards buses, but those that are actually able to get a lift lap, they are not actually bothered by the local taxi associations.
Sure, fair enough. You spoke about the SABC crew having been moved, almost intimidated by some of the taxi operators. What's your sense about the level of hostility there as the suspension of these Rea Vaya buses continues?
I actually missed that question because the audio is quite faint. But what I can tell you is that where we were, there were only about 2 Metro Police officers and numerous taxi drivers. That was quite intimidating. And we also realized that if we were actually to try and reason with them, we wouldn't actually have anyone to sort of get us out of that particular situation, as the Metro Police officers were actually quite outnumbered. And we felt that it would be in our best interest to actually just relocate from that particular location to come to a place that's actually more quieter. We tried to actually try and find out who we can talk to on the side of the taxi industry for them to actually tell us about the reservations that they have, because we only heard from the side of the Rea Vaya where they were saying that different stakeholders have an issue with the new buses that were actually introduced here in Soweto. And we had a story of one of the guys that are actually been trained to be a bus driver to operate locally. He's saying they were trained for quite some time, and he was recently hired, and he asked for money to get accommodation and to buy himself groceries. Yesterday was his first day. He managed to work, came back, parked the car, and today when he came back to work, they were told that no, the bus operations have actually been suspended. So he's actually concerned because he's had to borrow money to come and hire a place close to work, and also get him some groceries that will actually sustain him up until the day he earns, so that he can go repay those people. So he's concerned that should different stakeholders who are opposed to the operation of Rea Vaya locally here in Soweto succeed, then it means his livelihood will actually be badly affected, and he won't be able to pay those lenders that borrowed him the money for him to actually come and settle here close to where he actually works. Ayanda.
All right, Ofentse Setimo, thanks very much indeed for filling us in on what we know so far. We'll certainly be able to establish a whole lot more details, I imagine, throughout the course of the morning. But for now, thanks once again. Ofentse Setimo live to us there from the Dobsonville Depot, the Rea Vaya Bus Depot, that is, in Soweto.